All right, welcome everyone. Hi, I'm Angela Bohl. I'm the CEO here at the Independent Book Publishers Association, here with MJ Courchesne. Hi, MJ, for our second Selling Foreign Rights webinar. Hopefully many of you were with us on our first outing last week. We're here again, this time to talk about vetting potential foreign rights partners. And we're hoping this time as well to have a bit of a dialogue with everyone who's on the call with us today. I know not everyone can join in for these, so we are recording this session and we will make sure to send the recording out to you who are here so you can watch it again if you'd like, or if you're just listening in for the very first time, if you weren't here live, welcome. We're glad to have you. This is, of course, part of the virtual Frankfurt package that you purchased. This is an exclusive set of webinars just for those members who are in the Frankfurt program with IBPA. So we're not making this content available outside of the Frankfurt virtual program. We put together a set of 4 webinars. Last week talked about what you need to know to get started, and now we're here to talk about vetting foreign rights partners. MJ is going to talk a little bit about how to find them and then how to vet them, what to do when you get an offer. And we're going to take that another step forward next week when we meet with Jonathan Kirsch, who is our legal advisor and who has put together the foreign rights agreement, the sample foreign rights agreement that was emailed to you all last week. So hopefully when I say that it was emailed to you last week, that strikes a chord, you remember that, you can find that sample foreign rights agreement and get ready for Jonathan's session next week as well. And then, of course, we'll wrap everything up with the debrief after everything's over, said and done, on October 26th with MJ and Terry Nathan in our office, who manages the program for us. So again, welcome MJ Courchesne, who is the owner and principal rights consultant of Gryphon Publishing Consulting. And as I've heard today, is a 3- or 4-time presenter at IBPA Publishing University and has done webinars for us and is pretty connected in the IBPA community as well. She is running her own program at Frankfurt for her clients and has partnered with us to help get our membership up to speed and up to date on what's happening with the Frankfurt Rights program, but in a broader sense, rights in general. So we're really excited to have you. I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit more if there's more you'd like to say about your background. But if not, I'm going to find your name and we will make you the presenter. And welcome to the show. I think that worked.
Great. Yes, I think it worked. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I'm happy to be here again. As Angela mentioned, if I seem familiar, you might have seen me either at IBPA live and in person, or in a virtual sense, because I've done a couple of presentations in the online PubU universe as well. So I am basically a freelance rights person, not a lawyer. So if I mention anything about contracts or anything like that, it's just out of more than 25 years of practice in the industry and working with copyright lawyers and publishing lawyer folks like Jonathan, who you'll see again next week, going through the contracts and what those look like. But I come at this from the direction of trade publishing. I was the director of subsidiary rights for the National Geographic Books program for more than 15 years. And I also teach in the GW University Masters in Publishing program. So I talk about this stuff every day. This is my life. And some of it's not so glamorous. And so last week was kind of fun, I think, but this week is definitely a bit more of the nitty-gritty. This is not really the sexy part of it, but it's the part where you have to spend time to learn. If you're looking for a partner to work with with your foreign rights, whether having them do a translation or having working with them to create like a co-publication, which we'll talk a little bit more about towards the end, it's important to know who you're working with, or as best as you can, and make those decisions as best as you can when it comes to selling your foreign rights. Last week we talked about what foreign rights were, And if you were here, you remember I was talking about a bundle of pencils or something like that. So basically, each one of these is a right that you can share with someone and put the terms to what they can do with it. And when it comes to places like Frankfurt, you are in control of exactly not only what language they might go and translate your work into, but where they can do it. So you could actually have multiple French translations down to the country if you really want to. But chances are pretty good if you have one publisher working on a language, it may encompass the other parts of the world that have that language available. But these are all things that you will specify in the contract, which you'll learn more about next week. So what we're going to do here is take a little tour through some tools that you can use to figure out how to go and vet your partners, and I will go on from there. But first off, I'm going to do something else. Hang on one second.
I was going to say that she understood what Kelsey was typing in, that we can still hear her husband talking. It's hard when you're sharing an office space and it's so small. But she did mention. So welcome back.
It is. It's. We only have one circular space here, so there's only so much room. So usually we're able to go back and forth. But today, obviously, we didn't plan very well, so I apologize for that. Anyway, okay. So the next slide here, what you're going to be doing, you can use technology. So I've got 2 slides on technology. The big one for you right here is the Frankfurt Book Fair itself, which actually, if you, of course, you're signed up through IBPA, but the good news is the Frankfurter Book Fair, so Frankfurter Buchmesse, is open. That website is open to everyone. So you can actually go there and do some research, find out who's there, who the exhibitors are when you go to that website. And you don't have to sign up. You don't have to do a login. You don't have to do anything. You can just go to that website. And the exhibitor catalog is actually not just exhibitors this year, but it's also agents, scouts, and co-agents. Everybody is in one place. So myself, as a rights professional, I am actually listed there as an exhibitor, but I'm not actually a publishing house. I am on the services side of publishing, and I'm representing my publishers, but I'm listed under exhibitors. So basically what you can do is go and dig into the entries that are there to find out who is not only at Frankfurt Book Fair, but who might be a potential partner for you there. And then use that to bring them back to the IBPA listings and all the content that you have up there. The one thing to keep in mind is that actually everything for the Frankfurt Book Fair is still being built out. So they've done a really great job at putting things in a virtual arena, but it's still being built out as we speak. It's something that everybody is working on, and we keep getting emails from the Buchmesse organizers to fix your entry if something is missing and get some other information up there. And then the other layer, which I'm helping IBPA and all of you with by extension, is sort of building out where all of the content is that you can share with potential partners, which will be linked, I believe, from the IBPA site. And then sort of in the rights entry portion of Frankfurt, which is closed for just those publishers and agents that are going in separately, which none of you have to worry about because you are part of IBPA. So just a little walkthrough so you know what you might be looking for when you go to the Frankfurt website for some research to find out who might be out there, or if you end up getting a tickle from someone to see if they're actually listed here. It's sometimes helpful. Not everybody goes to Frankfurt. Not everybody's doing it virtually either. But this is a good starting point, is to research at these book fairs, at their websites that are virtualized to see if they're there. So what you would do is go to bookmesse.de, and you can tell your browser that you want it in English, otherwise this would all be in German. So don't worry, you don't have to speak German to be here. And then what you would do is click on this little portion here that says Digital Fair. And so you click there, and this tells you about the exhibitor directory, but you don't need to read that or really worry about it at all. You just go to the exhibitor directory at this red button here. And then there are two main ways to look at publishers that are participating in Frankfurt. So you can go in here and browse and see people that might be sending you messages later on. And again, if you have some ideas previously, or some of you I know might have gotten some tickles from other publishers around the world already, so you can see if they're there and if they have other things that they're doing, and you can search them by their exhibitor name or by publication topics. So this is good, and you'll see this in a few minutes when I talk about figuring out who your potential partners might be. If you are publishing in a particular arena, you probably are going to want to look at the topics that are available and who might be publishing in those areas. So again, this is all open. You should be able to go and look at it. That's what they've been telling us. If they don't, you can yell at me later. I'm sorry, I'm just the messenger, but that's what they told us in the training for Frankfurt last week, that this portion of the site is completely open to everyone without registration. So you can go in and start your research. Anyway, another piece of technology that you can look at, and that's one that I use for my clients, is called PubMatch. This is a paid option, and it's another basically directory / content housing location. In Frankfurt Writes, part of the subset of Frankfurt Book Fair, there's a location to load up tip sheets, covers, that kind of thing. And this PubMatch does something similar. What PubMatch does and the Bookmesse Rights portion does, which you're not going to need to worry about, but these are ways to organize your rights and have data and detail available for potential partners. You also can go and then set up your contract there if you have a certain contract you want to use. So say you fall in love with Jonathan's contract, something like PubMatch or the IPR license, which is the Frankfurt Rights platform, specifically the paid version of the Frankfurt Rights platform, will house those things for you if you want to use that. You don't have to. You don't have to use any of this. I'm just giving you options. So don't worry. You don't need to pay for anything else unless you really want to. So again, with PubMatch, similar to actually researching in the directory that I just showed you, you would be able to research here and see what publishers are on PubMatch and what they do, where they are, who they represent, and have some ideas of where you can go from there.
I'll just jump in when you jump to the slides to answer Joffrey's question about tip sheets, which we sent you an example of last time. And there have been a lot of questions about how do you upload your tip sheet. And because we'll just look at the Frankfurt Rights directory right now, because that's the directory that IBPA is managing on your behalf at Frankfurt. We'll be uploading all of your title data that you send us to the Frankfurt Rights directory, and the deadline to do that is, for us, it's, it's different for everybody, I'm sure, but for us, it's next Monday, October 5th. If you want to email Terry Nathan a separate tip sheet, you can do so, and he can make sure that that gets up into your Frankfurt Rights catalog listing. It's not a requirement. It's kind of an extra special thing that you could do. But I would say send that directly because it's not asked for in the metadata ingestion form that you received for the Frankfurt program. But you can absolutely just email Terry your tip sheet and tell him it's for your Frankfurt listing, and he'll get that up on the Frankfurt Rights directory, which is the one that that Frankfurt is managing. And not to confuse folks too much, but just for me to see how the things connect, you might hear IPR license as another directory, and IBPA has a benefit right now with IPR license. This is a rights directory, just like we're talking about with Frankfurt Rights. It's actually the Frankfurt Rights
like
directory.
PubMatch.
Yeah, they're just transitioning IPR license to be the directory for Frankfurt. So it's the same thing. It's the same directory. In my feeling and understanding. And the reason MJ was laughing earlier is because even I was like, well, what is the answer? What is the answer? And she's like, I don't know. They're just rolling it out last week, this week. Everything is really, really new. But I believe IPR license is going to go away in the name of anything, and it's just going to be the Frankfurt Rights platform for them. So that's how those two words connect. Did you hear something different last week?
No, that's about it. They're starting to basically refer to it as PubMatch, and it officially launches. And this is why there's still a bit of uncertainty here, and we're not doing it to be obscure. It's because we literally don't know. They did training last week, so this little inside football for you. They did a little bit of training last week for the Frankfurt Rights platform, and it was a little bit funny because as soon as they open that up, then everybody's like, well, can we upload stuff now? And they're like, no, we're not launching the platform until October 1st. And it's like, okay, so we're all going to discover together how well this works. I am predicting, to be honest, that there might be some late nights when we all try to upload things because, which again, none of you that are on the bridge here need to worry about this, but Terry and I will probably be up late trying to figure this out because I'm sure that it's probably going to crash at least once because the entire Frankfurt Book Fair website crashed when they announced that they were going virtual. So, but that's technology for you. So anyway, but IPR license or Frankfurt Rights and PubMatch are basically some directories. And honestly, a lot of the book fairs have their own directories too. Beijing has their own. I think Bologna might use, I want to say they use PubMatch, but I'm not really sure. And it doesn't really matter for our purposes in terms of research. For you guys, the exhibitor directory that's out there is going to be one of your main tools at the moment. So, but there are other things that are out there. That's just so you know.
PubMatch it's a separate directory and database though. Correct or incorrect? Okay.
Yes, it's very separate. PubMatch is actually the underpinnings of PubMatch. It's partnered with Publishers Weekly and the Copyright Clearance Center, which is the RRO here for the United States, and that's a whole other set of conversations. So I'm not going to even explain what that is, but basically they're both set up the same way. They essentially list who the publisher is, what the title is, what rights are available, and possibly, if someone opts into it, what the contract is, if they have specific offers they want to see, that kind of thing. But they're all basically the same. Mm-hmm. So anyway.
To answer, I won't pronounce it right. I don't know why it's hard. Marilyn's question. PubMatch is a different directory altogether. It's not part of the Frankfurt program. It's a separate thing run by PW and Copyright Clearance Center. It's just an example of another online directory available to rights agents and publishers looking for foreign rights. So yes, It's an extra cost. Yes, it's a different thing. And
no, you don't have to do it.
And no, Mary Jo, she's getting you off the hook a lot of places. But it is something that is used in this world. So, if you decide you're going to lean far into foreign rights, it's an option for you to find other foreign rights publishers and agents that might be interested.
Yeah, and this is the way that you can find those folks. So if you are looking for a co-agent or a scout, this is really where they're all listed, is in places like these. But you can also find them by doing just searches on the web too. So anyway, let's move on.
You're going to move to the next. I'll just put this question in the back of your head and then mute myself. I don't know if we'll get into specifics on what you can match by, genre, audience, that kind of a thing. I know you said you might do like a live demo or something. We can cruise over to the website if we have a little bit of time at the end. But yes, you can go do searches on topics and then see if you can find your match that way. So, but we can go over to the website at the end. I don't know how much of my screen you can see, but basically in the background I have the Buchmesse site up, so I can go over there when we are ready. So anyway, okay. So as you're continuing your search, one really great tool, and this is what I do for my clients, so I'm really not telling you anything that isn't unusual.
You know who your competition is here in the States or in Canada or wherever it is that you are. You know what they publish. You know who you're up against. Look at them. Where are they? Are they translating things somewhere else? And if so, who are they using? So look, go do your research there on their website. We're going to get into other ways to look, but also ask them. Publishing is a community. It's small. There's no harm in sending a message to a fellow publisher saying, hey, I noticed that you've used this partner before for getting something into French. What did you think of them? What was your experience? You ask for references when you're looking at hiring someone. You're basically hiring someone here. So ask for references. Look and see what your competition is doing and ask. They could always not tell you, but what good is that if they need something down the line? I think, but you never know. So ask. And then to go even deeper, then you can start looking at in-country resources. So the simplest one would be, of course, Amazon. Look at the Amazon top, sites. Their listings for various genres. Yes, you might need to figure out what that word is in French or Polish in order to find what you're looking for. But take a look at those lists and see who they are, see what the publishers are, and then see if those publishers are looking for partners to translate titles out of English into a home language. Look to local media for bestseller lists. So there are basically, I think in France, for example, I keep using France just because that's what I've been doing lately. Hebdo, Charlie Hebdo has like a bestseller list. Find the New York Times of the local country and see if they have a list of who's publishing and what they are publishing. And use those to find publishers that are similar to you. And then the step is the same. You're going to go and contact them if you think that they might be a good match or they might be interesting, and ask them if they are looking for titles to translate out of English into a home language and who they might have done it with before, what references they might be able to give to you if they've worked with another publisher here in the States or in Canada, who they have worked with, and then maybe then go back and talk to them and see what their experience is. That kind of thing. You're basically gaining knowledge, as much knowledge as you can on an individual level, your own research to make an appropriate decision. And then where do your offers come from? Sometimes they're just going to contact you directly. That's where some of my clients and people that I work with have gotten an email or something from another country, and they're like, well, somebody's interested in this title. Now what do I do? Where did this come from? Again, we'll go back a couple slides, see where they are, go find their website, look them up and see if they're at the Frankfurt Book Fair, see if they have other titles that they represent, and you're reading down and doing your research to see if they might be a good partner that way. So it might come directly from the publisher in that country. You may be getting a referral, something from an agent. And the agent could be an agent that's here working with a partner agent in another country. Sometimes it's just the agent in country that's coming to you directly. So, and similarly with scouts, it might be a scout that might contact you because they have a pile of publishers that they're always looking for new stuff. And scouts a lot of times are in your country, so they might be a scout here in the States, but they're scouting for a publisher somewhere else. Their job, a scout's job, an agent's job, is to kind of know what's out there and know who good partners might be to make that match for you. Rights managers like me, I tend to just be doing the outbound stuff and trying to find agents, co-agents, scouts, publishers, whomever, to make those matches happen. But the job of agents in country, co-agents, and scouts is literally to find more content for their partners, and then they split royalties accordingly. So yeah, it can really come from anywhere. from book fairs like Frankfurt, London Book Expo, sometimes there are referrals that come after those. That's the one thing that I will say about Frankfurt coming up. It is going to be very busy and manic for a good part of October, trying to get everything up and running, answering questions, blah, blah, blah. But this stuff runs afterwards. So really, a fair could only be the beginning of a conversation because they've discovered you there. And then they contact you and they want more information. They want some reading material, et cetera, et cetera. It goes on from that beginning, wherever they've just found you, whether it was on their own research, an agent, a scout, or they were at the fair and they happened to walk by your stand, or in our case, the virtual stand that IBPA is setting up, and they saw all of the amazing things that you're publishing, and they're like, I want to talk to them. So that's where an offer might come from. And it might just be an offer right off the bat. And it might just be a request for further information. It depends upon the person who's contacting you, what they're looking for.
Can I say one thing about
sure.
the program with IBPA, where authors come from? If you've done the Frankfurt program with us before, you know this, but if you haven't, I'll let you know that it's going to be a little weird and different this year because it's fully virtual, so I'm not sure. I think there's an opportunity for more of these publishers and agents to go direct to you as the publisher because you're now listed virtually. Things are a little bit more open. Your rights contact is email address is on our website. So there's a lot more transparency to you than there generally is when you're just going through an in-person physical fair. So you may get some of those tickles, I love that word, from folks asking. But generally speaking, what happens is Terry Nathan takes meetings with these agents. He's got a list of about 600, and usually he's just in meetings all day at the physical fair. We anticipate he'll be in meetings basically all day during the digital fair days, meeting days, and he gets interest. And when he gets interest, he takes that information and he does that matchmaking, and he'll send you anyone who said, I'd like more information about this book, this book, or this book. But he won't just send you yours. He actually creates a document that has contact information for everyone he met with. So you'll have that. And then everyone he met with, the books that they said they were interested in. So maybe they didn't say they were interested in yours per se, but you see that they asked for a lot of books on an X topic. So you might just kind of tip back into them and say, hey, if you asked for a lot of books on X topic, you might have missed this one. It's my book. It's X topic as well. I think it'd be great for your list too. Please give it a second look. So you'll get that entire list. Even if then, no offers come on yours particularly, you can see what people were asking for. And there's opportunity, as MJ has been saying all along, to give them a friendly tickle and ask them if they want to take another look.
Yeah. And actually the meetings and things, if meetings are set up, it's really going to go on for quite a long time. The rights directory for Frankfurt Rights, will be up until June 2021. So it's not going away. The fair this time, even though it's only the same number of, a little bit shorter number of days than the actual fair. So there's roughly a week or so when Frankfurt Book Fair usually goes on. But all of these meetings and things will be rolling for quite some time. So there's, I think, in one sense, a bigger opportunity this time because people will be setting up meetings instead of trying to squash them all into just 4 days or 5 days. They're going to be able to expand them, and their meetings could be longer. They could be more in depth than just what happens at the book fair, because the Frankfurt Book Fair is manic. I was looking forward to going this year, but I will start saving my energy for hopefully next year, because you are really, it's 15-minute meetings, very fast. And so it's great that y'all are able to be represented in the IBPA booth, but it definitely is a very manic process because you kind of have to know what your next meeting is while you're sitting in the current meeting, and then what's the meeting after that, and have everything all ready to roll. And it is exhausting. It's pretty exhausting, but it's also kind of fun. And, there's a lot of discovery that happens. Sometimes somebody comes and sits down and it's not a match at all. But that's not for you to worry about right now. You're worrying about where your matches are coming from. So let's drive on.
Thank you.
Let me see if I hit the right button. Okay, there. So what do these offers look like when you get an offer? So they can really run the gamut. So the numbers that are here are examples. Your mileage will vary. I will say that. But it's possible that they will look like this. If it's a larger market country, or if it's a publisher that really thinks that this is going to be big, then they may give you a big advance. But sometimes the big advance is not the big advance that you might be thinking. It might just be $500, or, it's likely going to be in euros. I think the last couple that I've done have been in euros. So the equivalent. It can be more. It really, really, really depends. And the royalties are usually somewhere starting at about 10%, sometimes can go up from there. It also depends upon if they're doing one format or multiple. And then it might be varying depending upon the type of format they're going to be publishing in. It'll also vary according to how many they're planning on printing out the gate. So all of these numbers might change. So again, something might look really small, but you have to remember that a foreign market is not necessarily the market where you are. So it may not be that groundbreaking, it may not make your year, but it's something that will hopefully build on. And then if you have a good partner, then there may be some more titles that you are able to negotiate and work on and go from there. Smaller markets, they may actually only give you a flat fee. They're doing a very limited run, and they may just give you a flat fee, one and done, and that's it. And then your contract will specify how many they're doing, when they owe you the, royalties, et cetera, when they owe you the advance, et cetera. So again, really, really depends upon the country what you might see.
Jeffrey is acknowledging he hasn't heard of getting an advance on a published book. You did mention that's for larger companies, maybe for larger books that have a proven track record, et cetera, et cetera. So advances, I think, might not be something we all look for very much in the indie press market.
Yeah, they do happen. I do have a couple clients that have gotten advances, but then there are other clients where it's just a flat fee deal. It just depends. The things that will raise the money in a deal, of course, will be if the book has a lot more potential. So, we can sell rights, as we mentioned last week, can sell rights for a book that's just coming out of the gate right now. That's fine. We are running the whole life cycle of books here. So from the very, very beginning, as you're just getting ready to publish, all the way to finished book and beyond. Because some of these publishers will mine the backlist. How many sales you've had may play a role. If it's been the bestseller list over here, if you've gotten film and TV rights sold or interest, if it's in multiple different formats with other licensing partners, all of those things can feed into whether a partner of yours thinks that there's potential success enough to warrant a bigger advance, more money, higher royalty, blah, blah, blah. And of course, you can also set parameters too as to what you want to accept. But we'll review that in another minute. So anyway, the deal structure, which again, you're going to see more of this next week with contracts. But these are some of the things that you're going to think about when you're striking a deal. And these are the things that will be reflected in your contracts. So if license deal, there might be an advance on a royalty, might just be a straight royalty. Again, it's going to depend upon the market and what's going on. The standard royalties, again, might start at about 10%, go up from there, depending upon what they're doing. Flat fee. And then usually in most of these contracts, there is a commitment for the first printing or a maximum printing if it's just a one and done kind of deal. So those things are very key and important to know before you even go to contract what might be the next thing. Co-publications, I'm pretty confident that most of you here haven't dealt with them, may not deal with them, but this is when you are printing the book and you are working with a publisher in country and they're doing the translation and you're basically going simultaneously and you're using the power of both print runs and putting them both on the press at once. There are logistics there involved, like having to get their, their plate changes for the different language, things like that. So it's something that's possible. It's usually something that is when you're more established with a partner, then you might want to think about doing co-publications to sort of maximize that. But then there's also all of the deal with logistics in terms of shipping, where things are being printed, who's picking up where, blah, blah, blah. So these are a lot more complicated, but they can be useful if you're trying to maximize press time. So, and those are figured on usually your unit price plus a percentage, something like that. And then all of these other terms, XWorks, FOB printer, that kind of thing. Some of them might be familiar to you when you've been working with printers overseas, but where the copies that are being printed are going to be picked up by the partner. And again, there's also minimum order quantities there in that kind of deal as well. So, Oops, I went backwards. Wrong way. Those arrows are little. Okay. Restrictions to consider, and these are good practice and also a bit of my opinion in terms of what I've seen. Make sure when you're talking to a partner and you're looking at solidifying a deal, you are specific about the language restrictions, the territory restrictions. Those are the really big ones, and the format restrictions. So if they are going to be doing in print, are they doing paperback? Are they doing hardcover? Are they doing both? Are they doing an audio version? Make sure it's all spelled out. A lot of them can all go together if you want, but you don't have to. You could actually just license them one format and go to someone else for another format, because there are audio publishers all over the world too. So you could go and license audio to another publisher and they would do their own translation and create the audio edition there. Or it could be something that you would allow the in-country partner to vet and find someone that they recommend and then have that deal come back to you. But I definitely recommend if there are other formats and versions and things that you're looking at with someone, that you make sure that the approval on any of those deals comes back to you, or just don't allow them at all and they have to come back to you anyway, just so that you know where things are going, know where your IP is, and know what the restrictions are. I tend to always recommend that my clients do not allow permissions in the new language and don't allow excerpts in the new language unless it's just something for advertising, and definitely not allowing subsidiary rights. This is all in the world where I live, permissions, excerpts, subrights, as well as foreign stuff. But I've had cases where a book was translated. I think the one case a few years back was the book was translated into German, and the German publisher licensed an excerpt to a UK publication. And they retranslated the German and put it in a magazine in the UK. And all of a sudden, the author is contacting me saying, where did this excerpt come from? And why isn't it not listed on my royalty statement? And I couldn't find it. And I'm like, oh, that's very interesting, and followed the thread. And it turns out it was the German publisher had made a license to a UK publication for an excerpt. And they got into trouble. So just the long and short of it is it wasn't allowed. They shouldn't have done it. It was not a good thing. But you want to make sure that everyone is clear on what rights they have. And usually people are not in this to be mean and do something they're not supposed to. But it's important to make sure that everyone understands what's going on. And you can be sure I didn't work with that publisher again because they crossed the line.
Can you, I was going to ask you to actually say more about permissions as opposed to or in relation to rights, like the difference between, and I'm going to also put in the chat something I emailed to a member this morning who was asking about fair use and permissions, which is different. It's an article from Jane Friedman that I thought did a really good job explaining permissions. So what do you mean by not allowing permissions? What are you not allowing this publisher to do?
Basically, permission and really a sub-right, a subsidiary right, an excerpt, all of these things can kind of fall under permissions, but basically any sort of reuse of your content. So if it's someone wants to go and take a photograph from your publication, it's your photograph, and they want to put it somewhere else, they really should likely have permission for that. I read Jane's article. It is very good. Fair use is a whole other conversation, not for today. But essentially, you control your IP, so you can allow people to reprint your IP, your book, excerpts from your book, pieces, parts, and put it somewhere else. They should probably be getting permission from you to do so that you know where it is, and then you also have a say in how they represent your title. So whether it's the credit line that they come back to you so that someone can read more, whether the ultimate is to get an ad then in that new publication, there should be some sort of agreement that's there because it is yours. You're publishing this not to be nice out of the greater good of your heart, but ultimately I'm sure you want to make money from what you're doing. So you are allowed to grant permission. It's your IP or your author's IP if you're representing an author. And so you should control that piece. And that's why when it comes to another language, you want to make sure that they do not have control over that piece because of the story I just gave you. It could run away from you. It's not necessarily the end of the world, but I come down very strongly on the side of authors' rights, publishers' rights if the publisher is controlling these things, and making sure that you are getting your due from that work. Hope that helped. But yes, go read Jane's article if you haven't yet. That's a good one. And fair use could be a whole other topic. All right. Okay, so we're at the end, really. Final thoughts. One thing to keep in mind with any of this is all at your own discretion. If there's some sort of bell that's going off in the back of your head, you don't like the smell of a deal, and you don't like the look of them, whatever the case is, you can always say no. No one is twisting your arm. Carrie might send you something and you're like, no, I don't like it. Then don't do it. Everything is negotiable. So all of those terms that we mentioned earlier, what you're going to be looking at next week, it's a template. You can change any of that. Just definitely if you're working on changing language, talk to your attorney and make sure that it's cool with them. But any of these things can be negotiated. Making sure you have lead time. So if you're trying to get something accomplished to all go at the same time, if it's a co-publication, or even if you're just trying to make sure that you're accommodating your partner's schedule. Make sure you're giving yourself enough time to get them what they need, to review the deal. Don't rush through it. And if you don't like the timeline, then that's something you can also push back on. And the other thing is to be patient. We're all super stoked for Frankfurt Virtual this year because it really is opening up a big world. There are a lot of publishers that are participating this year that have never participated before because it's virtual. I was on they're calling a little social called HOF last week already. We're starting the networking for Frankfurt. And there were, I think, about 200 people from around the world that were on there. And it was just a casual thing. And they asked, what books are you excited about? And I tossed out a couple, and that was kind of fun to have them echoed around a little bit already. But it's something that just because I got that echo, just because someone was excited about what I said, doesn't mean that I'm going to have a deal on my desk tomorrow. It's something where it requires follow-up. So if someone contacts you, follow up with them. Sometimes they are going to take a heck of a long time to come back to you, even when you send them everything that they said they needed. put them on your calendar. So this is yet another thing that you get to follow up with. Yay, I know you're all excited about that. But it's persistency. It's being patient and being persistent that will lead you to these deals. And the way to also think about these, my final thought, is that licensing in a foreign language really is your gravy. It's the extra that you get when you've got a great book, because then you can send it around the world, and it's something that you didn't have before and you didn't expect. But it's all wonderful extra gravy that will help you grow. So I hope that helped. I think that was all my slides. So hit me. What are your questions?
Awesome. I do have a couple that are sitting here, and good space for people to think about other questions they might have. One is from Joffrey about POD titles. How do all the things we're talking about differ for POD titles, if they do?
Not at all, really. The main difference with POD titles is that you might have something that you can show someone in a complete work. So you've already printed it, it's already out the door, so you have a whole thing that you can show someone. The ideal timeline is starting to approach potential licensees ahead of your publication. But I know with POD and all of the instant world that we live in, that's not necessarily the way it goes. So the good thing is that you have a final document, essentially, that you can share with people. But other than that, everything's the same.
Yeah, it's just a printing. It's just how you've chosen to do your printing. It doesn't say anything about who has rights. You have the rights if you're the publisher. Someone's asking, we might get to doing a walkthrough of the portal for Frankfurt Rights. If we do, we'll do that after the 11 o'clock timeline, because it's extra and every one of you can do it on your own time. You can get in there and you can go look and see how you can sort through and how you can find folks. But hopefully we'll have a little bit of time after 11 to walk through that. I just see Terry saying, good question, Victoria, but not Victoria's question. So maybe you'll throw that back in there so we can grab the good question that could come at us. Marta wants to know, how do you monitor rights violations?
It's a bit of a sticky wicket. It's the same as over here. You find them and you whack that mole, basically. There really isn't. And I know because I'm part of the advocacy committee, this is something that we're working very hard on to try and give you a guide to what to do when things pop up where they shouldn't. But this is where it's also important to have a good copyright attorney on your side, so you can talk to them about what they can do in terms of getting something stopped if you discover it somewhere where it's not supposed to be. But the basic thing is, if you've got a good partner, you shouldn't really have to worry about that. But it can happen anywhere in the world, not just here.
Yeah, it's a big problem that a lot of people are working on. But whack-a-mole is really the only solution that the publishing industry at large has come to for combating rights violations. So keep yourself open to that. Is there a way to monitor, to just figure out whether there are rights violations in the world, or how do publishers know, or do they just come across them sporadically sometimes, or is there some place they can go and just see?
There is no central database or anything like that. It's Google things, see if your title pops up somewhere else and see if it looks similar to what you had before. If you've got a fan base, which is one thing that did happen when I was at National Geographic, we had many fans. And at one point I got an email from someone said, hey, you might want to look at this website. And I went over and looked at the website, and it was every single one of the traveler guides translated and posted on a website. And I'm like, oh, I got to send this over to legal. And I left it to them. So it's helpful if you have people that you know that like your stuff and can tell you when something happens. But it's really, really hard. It's just hard in general to go and find everything. I think the simplest thing would be that sort of Google search. So, but again, I really don't think you should worry too much about it. It's something that is a worry, but I wouldn't lose sleep over it at the moment. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I share that opinion. A lot of other fish to fry in our businesses. Doug is asking about who provides the contract. Is it the rights holder or is it the person who is looking to purchase the rights?
My recommendation is to have you be the one giving the contract because you know about your contract parameters. You've set them up, you've vetted it with your lawyer. Those are the terms you want, so have it be yours or Jonathan's when you go to that one next week.
Yeah, or Jonathan. But Jonathan is going to say, make sure you also have a lawyer because he's a lawyer. He's going to say that. Somebody earlier had asked, and I just thought the answer. I'm curious about whether they should hire a rights manager to do all this work for them.
Well, of course, my slight answer is yes, but it's really up to you. Honestly, that's the thing. With anything that I do, I'm in this business because I have fun with it and I really enjoy what I do, and it takes a lot of time. Some people don't have the time to go and concentrate on this. If you don't, then yes, look into an agent, look into a rights manager, someone to help you out. And I'm not saying that because this is what I do for a living. I'm saying it because it is what it is. You know, if you are a one-person shop and you're already doing the editorial and the marketing and the sales and everything like that, maybe you need help. But it's really up to you. I can't make you do anything, but I'm also here to tell you that you can do it on your own. You don't have to have a me.
Right.
I'd like it if you do, but you don't have to.
It can take some things off your plate. If somebody hired a you, what terms, basically? What's the business arrangement like for using a rights manager?
It usually rights managers are more of like I am are more of like a freelance employee. So I'm on contract. For some clients, I am on a retainer. And for other clients, if I'm only doing a book or two or something like that, it might just be a project rate. And other clients prefer to just pay me hourly. But that's where I am different than an agent or a scout. I do not take commission, so I am not a commission person. Agents and scouts have thousands and thousands of titles, and the way they earn their money is they get commission when they get something sold. I don't take the commission. Everything goes straight back to my publisher because you all are executing the contracts. I'm advising you, but you're the ones that ultimately are executing on things, and I'm just in the background helping you get there.
Great. So for Maryland's, it's not like an agent. It's a completely different job. Rights manager and agent, those are two completely different things.
I do work with agents and co-agents and scouts, but I am not one of any of those, actually.
Great. Thank you. Marta's apologizing for all caps. That's hilarious. Don't worry about it.
So you have to yell that question, right?
Yeah. So we're like we really, really want an answer to that question. I'm just seeing if there's anything else that flows through. One question is, can you put the Frankfurt Rights URL in the chat? And we might be leaning into some space where we can open up. Do you have 10 minutes to give us after 11? Okay.
Yeah, we can go into the Luke Mesa site and then go onto the Frankfurt Rights site. Just bear with me because it's still also new. So if there are technical difficulties, it's not just me.
Exactly. I mean, literally, they are opening it on October 1st for everyone to input their metadata. And as I mentioned earlier, that IBPA's deadline for getting all of your information in is October 5th. So we're giving ourselves 5 days. And somebody had asked when the deadline for tip sheet is. All of the metadata is due today, I think, or it was due Friday.
It was recently due?
Friday. So if you have not submitted your metadata for this program yet, it was Friday. And Terry is going to be hounding you. And because this is going to move so quickly, it's out of our hands. It's essentially how quickly this thing will move. If your metadata isn't in enough time for us to get it up, we're just going to have to roll. We're just going to have to continue to roll. So definitely make sure your metadata is in by Friday, so you know how tight our deadlines are now. All right. But no more questions are flowing in. How do I grab a URL? Are you able to throw a URL into chat?
Yeah. See, I don't know if I'm still sharing, am I? But
you are still sharing, yes. And
okay, well then you see the one website.
yeah, that we're going to go into a bit of an after program. So this would have concluded our general session with 2 minutes to spare. So I'll do a thank you, MJ, for providing the content information. And I'll keep this recording going so folks can watch and see if you'd like. But right now we'll just go into a bit of a show and tell on the Frankfurt Rights platform, which is super new for anyone who wants to stick around with us for a little bit. If you go, then you can watch this as part of the recording when we come back. So thanks,
okay. I guess I still have, so I have screen sharing still going, yes?
You too, yeah. So I'll let you know that we can see it start to shift.
Okay. So here then is the
no.
Mesa site. No?
We've seen nothing shift. Yeah, not yet.
Share this one. Do we see that? Let's see. All the buttons here are kind of interesting. So
yeah.
Screen 1, Screen 2, Google Chrome. I guess I'll go here. All right.
Usually I just share the whole screen, but I guess it's up to you if you're trying to hide some things. There we go. Things are happening.
There we go. Okay. All right. So, of course, there's stuff up here. Let me see if I can make that go away. Go away. Or maybe go somewhere else so I can get behind here. But anyway, okay. So, oh, there it goes. Excellent. So this is the regular, the Book Mesa site. So the Frankfurt Book Fair site. And Google is so nice that they translate for me, so I don't have to read German. But this site then is the main hub. And this is what I was talking about before. If you wanted to go in and just look at exhibitors, you just click here and you don't even actually have to register. You can just click right here. And in here, the digital fair, what we're going to do is just first go to events and exhibitors so you can see exhibitors. Totally digital. Let me just come down here and go to the exhibitor directory. And this was the other screen that I mentioned to you before, where you can come in then, and you're currently in the exhibitor directory. And there's an awful lot that's in here, so you can actually do exhibitors from A to Z, that kind of thing, or just come over here in these two panels. Discover exhibitors and publication topics. So we'll just go to publication topics real quickly so you can see how to find them. And bam, there they are in English. Love Google Translate for that. So here you can see the different publication topics that people registered under as an exhibitor. And again, agents, co-agents, they are all here. So let's go into, I don't know, we'll try children. 585 exhibitors so far. Picture books, first-time readers, age ranges for various kinds of publishers. So let's go into teenage fiction, 254 exhibitors. And here they are. And they are listed in alphabetical order, but you see there who they are, where they are located. And then if you click in, this is a publishing association, actually, Bangladesh. This is still, a lot of this is still being built, so there's a lot that isn't really showing, but here we've got a description of them, what they do, so you can see the different kinds of fiction and so forth that they deal with. Scroll down, scroll up, and here's their website, so then you can click on their website. And
this is my confusion, probably just for me, of whether these are the rights holders looking to sell, or these are the agents looking to buy.
Both. It's B for bunch in the exhibitor directory. So what you can do, and what I recommend doing, is just looking to see who's here. And then if they seem to be someone that you're interested in talking to, this is the first level. That's the other thing to remember. We are looking at the exhibitor directly. We are directory. We are not in the Frankfurt Rights platform yet. That's another level down. This is the very public-facing thing. So you are just getting the basic information about who is exhibiting here. And then some, but not necessarily all of these, will be in Frankfurt Rights if they have stuff to sell. So this is one part of your research.
Because Frankfurt Rights is not live yet?
Right. This is live. Frankfurt Rights is not live, but I'll show you where it is. Actually log in.
I feel like we're members of the curtain, like looking at things before they're even available.
Well, I don't know that I'm really going to be able to show you much once I get over here, but come on. Okay, so I have, based on that exhibitor directory, so you can actually place certain publishers on your watch list. So I've placed one so far. But so from that first level, here now I've got a little watch list that I can come back to if I want to go and learn more about them. But now let's go to back home. And look in here.
Let this render as you're logging in. Terry Ryder asks, we need to register first to get the rights directory. I'm going to have Terry Nathan send all of you guys a detailed email on how you as IBPA participants engage in the directory, because I also saw the login, and I know Terry's going to have a login so we can get all of the data in there, how you guys might get into the directory, and I'm still unclear, MJ, how public-facing this directory is then, like Frankfurt
The directory is completely public-facing. So that first level that I was showing you is public-facing. In order to participate in Frankfurt Rights, but again, since Terry and IBPA have the Frankfurt Rights portal, collaborative stand, that kind of thing, combined stand, I don't know how that's being handled with the individual publishers that are participating in the IBPA stand, so to speak. But it is something that all of this is free. That's the good thing, is that it's all free. So depending upon what Terry says, if he says that you all will not have individual logins under the IBPA thing, then you still can register. But I would also caution against doing anything that might confuse people. Because your agent, unless you have a foreign rights agent or a rights manager, or if Terry's representing you, IBPA is representing you, then IBPA would be listed as your rights contact. So that's where it's a little bit unclear whether I would actually recommend that you register for Frankfurt Rights. That's why I was pointing you just to the overall directory at the homepage for the Frankfurt Book Fair over here. That general directory, everybody can get to. So whether you use it to research after Terry gives you a bird dog, or beforehand if you're trying to go and generate some leads, then you can actually just start with that directory. Frankfurt Rights, which is where I am right now, required a login, so I'm logging in. But this is all it looks like right now, really, because then it'll take me right back to registering as a digital exhibitor, and therefore populating the first part of the site before we can go in here. So what I can show you, I guess, which might be interesting if you're interested what the underpinnings look like, is I can go because it'll be similar to this. That much I do know. This is PubMatch, not Frankfurt. but it'll basically look like, it looks like a database. It's really not that glamorous. I will tell you that.
You started our session today by saying we're not going to talk about glamorous stuff. And then I thought,
Oh.
but data is, I don't understand. Data's great.
So yeah, so this is basically, I used to use IPR license with my clients last year, which I think is, so it's kind of hilarious that Frankfurt Rights is taking over the IPR license platform because I was on it last year. And now I'm on PubMatch. So I'm actually going to be filling in this information over here for somewhere else. But basically, let's see, where are my titles? So it's going to look kind of like this, where you have a list of titles. It'll have the cover, and you can click in and then see more information. And on the Frankfurt Rights portal, there's going to be very similar functionality, where if someone was buying, they could go and click here and send me an offer. But there I have more about the book, about the author, the categories, reviews, all of that stuff. And this is where like your metadata that you're providing to IBPA would be going into, but in Frankfurt Rights. Basically, if I click this, it's really just, it's going to just take me back to register, but I'm already registered.
Right.
If you were registering, this is what it looks like, but you're not. But it would be, yeah, that's where you're being taken care of. So once this launches, and that could be something that we could have as a little side conversation, if people are really interested in what the back end looks like, again, not glamorous, we can maybe show you later on, but it really is a place where anybody who's participating as a buyer, as a seller, as a scout, there are editors that are in the directory, the exhibitor directory. Again, it's everybody this year. Normally the rights platforms and the rights center is restricted just to the rights folks, but and then the publishers that are selling. But in this case, this year, the Frankfurt Book Fair is everybody in one exhibitor directory. But this portal will basically allow you to make the contacts to get offers and discover titles and companies. So everything we were talking about today in this Frankfurt Rights portal is there. But really, it's just another level of that exhibitor directory that we started the afternoon with, morning, wherever you are. So.
And it is new, but I'll answer a couple questions that are in chat. Well, first I'll reiterate that I will have Terry mock this out in writing so that you all understand exactly what access you have in the Frankfurt Rights directory itself. I guess I'm going to use that word. It's the Frankfurt Rights directory, which looks a lot like what she showed you, which is PubMatch, which is just a listing of your book with the rights available, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to load all that in for you. And I'll get Terry to explain to you what access you will have to that directory. Now, the list of exhibitors and the people at the fair, all of that is public facing. You can go there anytime. You can say, I want to look for exhibitors, and I'm interested in France for French language. So I'm just going to go do a nice look at that. You can pull the ones you want. You can communicate with us. These are the ones you're most interested in. You think there's the best tie. You can reach out to them directly and say, I'm participating in Frankfurt. You should really look at my books. There's a lot of different ways you can be creative with the exhibitor directory. The exhibitor directory, the rights directory, we'll figure out what, exact kind of how you might get into there or not get into there. And we will let you know, but we manage that for you. That's part of being part of this program.
And then you also have a separate website too, where you're housing some extra info, right?
Yeah, we have a standalone website for your titles as well that will have a page that's completely public facing, that won't be behind any kind of a firewall. And you'll be able to share that with folks as well. And you might even default to doing that. You might use the exhibitor directory here to find people you think would be interested, and then send them to just the completely open public facing listing that's on the IBPA site. but you'll figure that out. You know, we're all kind of learning through this next couple of weeks how these things are going to connect. There is no fee for Frankfurt rights. I think that's correct, right?
Yes, it's free for the basic directory level.
At this point.
But there is another level, which would be where I think IBPA is, maybe. I'm not sure. But there is another level where you can pay, and then you can, what that payment level gets you is the ability to house your contracts, make deals directly through the portal, kind of like what I was showing you with PubMatch. But all of that stuff is not necessary exactly, because as long as you have their contact information there and you start communicating with someone over email or phone or Zoom or however you're talking with them, then you can send them your contract if you move on to that stage. You can send them additional reading materials or whatever if you get to that stage. So any sort of paid level you don't necessarily need to have, but that's up to you. And I think it also depends upon what access IBPA has. Again, I would try to make sure that you don't confuse potential partners by having a separate page, but there are ways in both directories, the exhibitor directory when you're filling in for that, or Frankfurt Rights, to designate your agent. So if your agent is IBPA or someone to talk to for more information, then put that in when you're filling that out, if you do that. But I think for our purposes here, you don't need to really worry about that. If you don't want to, you don't have to.
Right, because that's what you've purchased in your Frankfurt package with IBPA. We're going to get all of your information in there. And then we don't screen to answer Leslie's question. We won't think of us as a matchmaker. If somebody expresses interest in a title in our directory, we will send that interest to you, and you will do all of the things that MJ has walked you through to decide whether that's a nice match for you and you want to work with them and reach out to them. And again, you're the one that's going to do the contract and that kind of a thing. So you will get a report from us at the end of this whole program about who reached out related to which titles. But all of this is a suggestion that you could be doing some of that matchmaking yourself as we go along as well. And if you get direct interest, there's no need for you to send that back to us. You can just respond to it if you'd like. But we don't need to get in the middle of any of that that's happening. All right, so I'm going to make sure, based on some of these questions, we've done webinars that are just, this is how the IBPA program works, and we did not set these up like that because we wanted to just talk about rights, like what does it mean to sell rights, and what are your considerations, and how do you work that. So we didn't build a program in that's just about how this program specifically is set up to work, and that might be something that we should have done. So I'm going to talk to Terry. I'll make sure he definitely lets you know how this directory works. I don't want you to get too confused about it, because that's why you're working with us, so that we can figure it out for you and get all your metadata up and get everything ready to go so that you're listed and available. So let me talk to Terry, and we'll get something written up for you so you understand how that looks and works. And then if we need to have a dedicated session where we can just walk you through exactly how we're going to set your titles up in the directory and what that means for you, we can do that as well.
Yeah, that's the one downside. Again, Frankfurt went virtual with a month to go before the actual fair. So this was a big pivot very quickly. So the Frankfurt people were figuring it out, and so were we all at the same time. So I think, we're doing the best that we can.
Yeah. But there is a way that this works as a cooperative. So I'll take that on us that we should just walk you through our program verbally as well as writing it out. And so if you've done our program before, you won't have to attend because you already know. But if it's the first time, we'll walk you through it. And we'll set that up in the next week or so because it won't be hard to do.
Great.
All right. What else? Any final questions or thoughts?
feel free to reach out.
Yeah, and join us next week for Jonathan, for sure. These 4 webinars are really just about rights, setting up and selling your rights. So again, not really specific to the Frankfurt program, but I hear that feedback, and we'll set up one additional webinar in your package that is just about the Frankfurt program, not about selling rights in a general sense. So look for that. Very good.
Cool.
Thank you, MJ.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I'll be looking forward to next week as a participant for Jonathan. And then
a lot with Jonathan.
Yeah. And then I guess it's the end of October for the wrap up, right?
That's right. So we'll get through this setup, and then, as MJ said, we'll be pretty frantic just doing the work of Frankfurt, the meetings and the loading of the data, and then we'll get back to you when it's all done and let you know how it went. Cool. All right, guys. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and we'll be back to you. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Have a good day. Bye.